Alright, so welcome back, and on this one we need to talk about the shapers. So you have many shapers and you have them all right here when you go to the shaper section, and they all do different things. Some of them are more orientated to clip the signal, and some other ones will change not just how it sounds but how the waveform behaves. So you have two sides, how it affects the sound and then how it's just shaping the waveform. And they are just not very difficult to use. They're very simple to use, and they're easy to see and to hear what they're doing. And we're going to just go one by one on this one. Okay, so right now I'm just starting with nothing, and I don't even need this. I'm just going to delete the triangle and the AR, and I'm just going to keep this one so we can use it much later. I'm going to just leave it right down there. I'm going to go to the first one, which is going to be the Chebyshev. And every time I say Chebyshev, it reminds me to this actor, this old actor, Chevy. I don't know why. And if you don't know, Chebyshev is a mathematician. So you have it right here. And but it just how my brain works sometimes. Okay, so how does how this one will work? Well, first, I need to bring a couple things so we can see what this is doing. I'm gonna go to an LFO. I'm gonna bring an LFO, just put it right there, and I'm going to connect it to this module. Now then, I'm gonna make some space, and I'm gonna go and change this one to 1 bar, something super slow, and use a sine wave. Now I'm gonna go to level, and I'm gonna bring an attenuator. And later we're going to use it. For now, I'm just going to keep it to 100%, just there. And I'm just going to make it like this. Okay, so cool. So now what we want to do, we want to see how this one it's affecting whatever it is that we are doing right here. And I'm using an LFO because it's something that goes super slow, and we can really see how it will affect the waveform. So I'm going to go to display and just bring a display right there. I'm going to go an oscilloscope in this case. I'm going to go there and just put it right there. Okay. Now, of course, we need to go to the slow mode so we can see what this is doing. So I'm going to connect this one right here so we can see what this one is doing and what this one will do. And we can compare and just, figure it out. So I'm going to start going up, and notice that the Chebyshev is the red one. And if I just start going up, notice at some point that the same waveform is just going to start shifting. And if I go to something like there, we can see that it's really different. So on each cycle that we have right here, the waveform is just going to repeat over and over. And now, of course, since we have a very predictable form, notice that it's kind of almost perfect right there, right? So we were just kind of duplicating everything that we are doing. And if I go up, we are going to get more, and we are going to get more, and even more and more and more. And of course, you do get a representation, a very faithful representation of what's going on right here on this indicator. You don't need a display. You have it right here. On each cycle, it's just going to do this. So sometimes you're going to be landing on a very kind of a perfect spot, but at some point, you're going to get something like that, right? It's just not going to be that perfect. So this is what this is going to do. It's very simple. Now, of course, at the end of the day, now we know what we can see what it's doing, but it matters. What it matters is how it sounds, right? So I'm going to go and put this one right here. Maybe going to bring a toggle so we could just toggle this module. All right, so I got my toggle. I'm going to connect it here, just connect it right here. And for now, I'm just going to turn it off. Now, I want to disconnect this one right here. Maybe just put it there. We're going to reuse it later. And what I want to do, I want to bring an audio in, because I want to use a very simple sound source. That's what I want to use. I'm going to go right there and just go and get a test tone. And I want to see how a simple test tone will affect whatever it is that we are doing. Now, of course, we are going through the Chebyshev audio in, going through the Chebyshev, then going out. I'm muting right here. And then at some point, we are going to go out. If I enable this, we can hear the test tone. I'm going to go to maybe something like 523, and this is going to be a C5 note, C5 key. And what I want to do, I want to see how this will affect in terms of the harmonics that we get right here. Since we have a single tone, it's going to look very simple. We just have not much. Okay, so at this point, the Chebyshev is kind of doing something. If I remove this and I go and connect this one, notice that we get something a little bit different. So this one, even though it's all the way down at 1, it is doing something. It's adding harmonics right here. And let me just connect it again. Right, so I bring this in and we are getting something by default. Of course, we get not much, but that's fine. Now, of course, we cannot hear it. I'm going to just turn this on, maybe go up in gain a little bit. This will affect how it looks right there. And if I start going up and up and up and more, and I'm going to bring the volume down right here. Notice it's affecting the sound, but what it does is going to give us a lot more harmonics. Let me just go and select a large kind of a display. So it's going to be a bit more faithful, let's say. And maybe let's just go to huge. So, okay, so we are going to get all of this kind of peaks right here. So these ones are the harmonics that this one is giving us. And we can clearly see right here what it's doing. Now, if I keep going up and up, you're just gonna get this. This is just gonna be a little bit just different, right? Right, just let me toggle this off. Now, of course, right here, it's not just doing whatever it wants. All of this are harmonics. They are not random. They do have a purpose. Now, right now, since we have a fundamental tone, which is going to be a C note, we can maybe go right here and let me see if I can maybe make it bigger. So when you make it bigger, you can see right there at the top which key, this fundamental tone is. So if I go right there, we are in C4, right? Which, I told you to C. So if I go here, we are in C5. If I go right there, we are in G. So this tone is on G, and this one is on C, and this one is going to be on E. So if you think about this, these are just C, E, G. So this is a 5th, and the other one is the 3rd. So there's a very special kind of a calculated order to this harmonics. It's just not going random. That's just not the way it works. And this is not with the Chebyshev. It's with pretty much any kind of saturation or distortion that you're going to be creating. Everything is based on the fundamental tone that you're just feeding to here in this case. And in this case, we are just using test tone, which is a single tone. That's why it's so kind of simple to spot right here. But also notice how the harmonics are being created. So we start right here, and then we have a kind of a slump, they're just almost at the same position right here. And it's because, of course, I'm going really harsh on this one. But they are just kind of being right here in the same position. And then this goes up, and then it starts going down. And then we get a little bit at the end. But the most important part is that these ones are very close to the fundamental tone. They're very close to the fundamental tone. And this will, of course, affect the sound. And the other modules will give you some kind of harmonics, but they were going to be kind of located in a different place and distributed on a different way. And that's what gives you a different sound. Now, without going any further, what happens if you go to the distortion module? I'm going to go to shapers, and the next one is going to be the distortion. So I'm going to do the same trick. I'm going to bring it right here. And notice that, of course, something is going to change. And in this case, we get a very little right here. And if I go up, notice that the harmonics are just going to be a little bit different. It's not like the Chebyshev. We get a much less. Now, at some point, when we start really clipping everything, it's going to go right there and bring you the rest. And again, remember that there is an order. Right here is a C4. If I go right here, it's going to be a G5, right? So then I'm going to go and get a D sharp, and then I'm going to go and get an A. So they're kind of all related. Now, in this case, this is not what I want to show you. Now, the hard clip, the distortion in this case on this device. And for now, I'm just going to disconnect this and go back to what we had before, something kind of like this, so we can see what it's doing to the waveform. I'm going to go all the way down, just connect it back here, and I'm going to maybe disconnect it from this one. So right now, what we have, it's pretty much the same. And notice it's kind of doing something already to the signal, the distortion, when we go through. It's just kind of making it, it's affecting the amplitude. Now, of course, as we go up on this one, it will just start messing with the red one. And notice how it looks right now. So, of course, how distortion works is that it will start clipping kind of this sound right here, whatever it is that you're feeding. Of course, it's like going up in volume. And when we go up, of course, this one has no way to go. So it's going to start clipping. It's just going to start chopping those peaks. And we can clearly see that those peaks are not anymore. But since we are going up, of course, it sounds louder. But this one is just going to look bigger and bigger. But we're going to be chopping the upper part. I'm just going to try to explain how this works in a very simple way. Now, the main thing that you need to know is that as you go up, of course, what you're going to get is you're going to chop the peaks. Just going to start to clip. If you go all the way up and keep going up and keep going up, we're going to start seeing that it's going to turn this into a kind of a square waveform, right? And this is going to sound like a square. Now, it's not kind of a super perfect square, but we get it. So this distortion module is a soft clipping. And it has an anti-aliasing. So it's kind of limiting what we are doing. It's just chopping before going all the way up. Now, if I go right here and do the same thing that we were doing before, we have an anti-aliasing feature. And if I enable this one, notice that now everything goes all the way to up. And when we reach the upper part, then it will start clipping because we have this anti-aliasing. Now, we are just, kind of disabling it. And if I go up, it's going to start chopping as soon as we kind of start hitting the upper part. And if we go up and up and up, at some point we are going to get the same square, but at some point it's going to start kind of breaking and we don't have the same thing. And notice it looks different. It looks very different. And right here we have this tiny little part when we have the peak of the waveform. Now if I just remove this one, we have a very different waveform. Of course, this is it's gonna sound in a different way if I connect the out of this and go right here. Remember, we are using that test tone we used earlier. And notice how this sounds. Now I'm gonna go down and I'm just gonna enable the test tone. I'm gonna keep going up. Now, mostly we are going up in volume because we have a single tone. It's not a lot. But when you feed something else to this one, you, of course, gonna get a change in sound. You're gonna get much more. All right, so very, very simple. Remember always that you have that anti-aliasing option right here. And this module, the distortion, is a soft clipping. It's not hard clipping. So as we go up in whatever we are doing right here, we are just going to be chopping it in this fashion. Now the other one, the hard clip, they're kind of siblings, but this one is a bit more aggressive. It's just going to work on a different way. If I bring it, notice as soon as I bring it, it's just much harder, right? And if I keep going up and up and up, just like this, notice that it works in a different way. We don't get those round corners as soon as I start doing the hard clip. It's just going to go kind of in a linear fashion. It's not rounded anymore. And if I keep going up and up and up, at some point, we are going to go and get a kind of a perfect square. Right, so notice if I go all the way up, we are hearing something because it is still connected to the out. Yeah, we get it. So this one still has an anti-aliasing just like the other one. And if I keep going up and up and up, we are just going to start getting a different thing, but it's just pretty much the same in this case because this one is a hard clip. But at some point, we are just going to get to the same point. All right. Now, this module, and if I do the same right here, notice that they look very differently if we try to compare them. Right? They look very differently. So if I bring the distortion, which again is just like they're kind of a siblings, let's say, if I go right there and just make it, I don't know, yellow, something like that, so we can see it, we can see the difference between this two. And they're both on AA, and notice that we can disable the anti-aliasing right here. And notice that how they look. In this case, I'm just going to disable this one so we can get something closer to what we had in the other one. So they just look very different. They just clip the signal in a different way. Now, of course, it depends on what you want to do. You're going to bring one or the other one. Now, but they are different. If I go right there and just connect this one, of course, this one will, at some point, we are going to be reaching that, and we are going to get all of this harmonics. All right? So they will affect the sound on a different way. And if I bring the other one and we do the same, trick that we did before, I'm going to go right here, It's going to be a little bit annoying. So for now, I'm just going to disconnect it. I'm going to go to the yellow one and I'm going to go right there and just connect it right here. And notice that they are pretty similar, but they work kind of a different fashion. If I start going up, we can see a little bit of the difference in how they work. Now, right now, we are just doing pretty much the same, 23 dBs and 23 dBs. So the harmonics, they just look a little bit different. Right now, this one right here, it's just a bit more. Let me just make this bigger so we can really see this. So this one right here, and I'm gonna go there. There we go. There we go. Okay. So this one right here, notice the G5, in the case of the distortion, which is the soft clip, it's just much higher. And the other one, the hard clip, is just much lower. But then, of course, the other ones are just going to be changing. We get much more on the hard clip right here and less on the soft clip. So let me just go back to what we had before. So essentially, they are just kind of following the same idea, but they do work in a different way. And what you get in return is going to be a different sound. Now, most importantly, of course, you need to test it with whatever sound source that you're using and see if you like it. That's at the end of the day, that's what matters, how it sounds, not just how it looks or how we assume or we know that it's doing on the harmonics side of things or the waveform. Now, you still need to be aware of the waveform because we can use this waveform as an LFO instruction if we wanted to. We are shaping whatever we are doing right here on a different fashion. So we can alter the sound in the waveform just to perform a modulation, for example. So both things matter, how it sounds and how it looks. All right, so these ones are, kind of the main ones. The other ones are going to be a little bit easier right now. If I let me just disconnect some of those things. We are not going to kind of listen to this maybe right now. I'm going to go and maybe put them right here. And I'm going to disconnect this one right here. So, okay, so now we're doing hard clip, which is fine. I'm going to bring the quantizer and just put it right there. And as soon as you put it, it looks super weird, right? All right, so if I go all the way down, it's just gonna not do anything, right? It's just gonna do very little. We just don't get much. Now, the main difference with this one, the quantizer, it's let's say that it's going to affect the resolution of whatever audio you're feeding in. So back in the day when digital started, it sounded like shit. This is way back. And it's because of the resolution, the capabilities of processing were just a little bit lower, let's say. So the resolution was shitty and it sounded like distorted, sounded like shit, lo-fi. That's why you get the term lo-fi, low fidelity. So this is what the quantizer is just kind of doing. It's just going to be lowering the resolution. And notice that right now we have kind of a perfect, super, with a lot of resolution, kind of a waveform. With the sine wave, the turquoise one, if I go up, that one is going to start to break. And we are going to be getting something a little bit different. For now, I'm just going to disconnect this one. And notice that maybe if I make it a little bit bigger, maybe we can see it a little bit better. Notice that now it's just kind of a muddy right now. It's just not the line is just not perfect. If I keep going up and keep going up, at some point, you're just going to start getting this kind of a lo-fi, and it's lo-fi. And what you're doing is pretty much lowering the resolution right there. All right. And it's if you go all the way up, it's just like, I don't know. So if we take a look, we'll take it here. Let's say how this sounds. I'm going to go right there and just connect it and enable it. And notice that we get that kind of a lo-fi kind of a vibe. I'm going to go up in volume because this is just kind of a go down. Let me just go up a little bit. And I'm going to be feeding this. And notice the harmonics right here at the bottom. How different they look, right? They just look very different from the other ones. Oh, and then at some point we are just getting nothing. Alright, so that's how it works. Of course, again, at the end of the day, it just, whenever you connect something here, you just need to kind of test it with a real sound. Let me just disconnect all of this, maybe toggle this off. So remember, everything that you're going to be feeding to this, it's going to sound different. You need to just test, just to try it out. At this point, we are just trying it with the test tone, which is not very real, right? We are just trying to use something simple. Now, that's the quantizer. That's what it does, right? Of course, when we use it at this point, it's just maybe not that useful. But if you go and use it like there, it's just going to be very useful in this case. Now, the rectifier is the other one that we have available. And this one is very simple. Now, of course, you have positive and you have negative. So we know that waveform. We know this is the one. And if I go right there and just connect it, we have the same thing. So this one will start to rectify the negative or the positive. When I mean rectify, notice that we have the negative right here. At some point, it goes from 0 and goes down and then up. So this is the negative. If I start moving this one, it will start messing with that. Notice the red one is the rectifier. Just go low, lower, lower. And at some point, we are just going to get almost nothing until it's kind of completely rectified. And I'm going to disconnect this one so we can clearly see what's going on to the waveform right there. And there you go. Now, if I go to the other way, it's just going to affect it and just kind of flip it to the other side. And that's kind of like a name for a track. Flip it to the other side. Same thing with the positive. If we go right there and we start going down, we're going to be affecting the positives. And we're going to make it something like that. And if I go right here and go all the other way, we are just turning the positive to the other one, to the other side, and the negative to the other side. And we get the same thing. Just, it's just going to be inverted. But again, you can do this. And of course, you get your option of anti-aliasing. All right, so you can get some weird kind of waveforms right here with this one. And it's just a nice one. Now then you get the other one, the saturator. And on this one, I'm going to skip it. And maybe you're thinking, oh, this one is the one that has the most options and I don't understand anything of what is going on right here. I've already made a video about this. If you didn't see it, you can look it up on my channel. It's this saturator, this device, it's the same device that we get right here. Notice they are doing the same exact thing. They are just the same thing. So maybe you can go to that video because it took like 25 minutes to explain every single control and every single knob and how it works. And if you learn that one, when you go back, you're going to know what this one will do. All right. All right. So let me just keep moving forward. The next one is going to be the Wavefolder. All right. So this one, what it does, and the name Wavefolder kind of fits the description right here. It's going to fold the wave. Yeah. So at this point, again, remember, we go up and down and up and down. But at some point, this one is going to reach the maximum peak and then go back and then go back and then go back. It's like just like bouncing, right? If I keep going up, this one, of course, will grab the peak and it will start folding on itself. That's why it's called Wavefolder. And if I keep going up, at some point, we're going to get that Batman kind of a shape. And same thing, we can go up and up and up, and everything is going to start folding on itself. And at some point, everything that starts hitting the upper part is going to start folding. And we're going to get something like this at the end. And that's how it works. That's the Wavefolder. It's a very classic shaper. Right. Again, all of this will just sound in a different way, and it will affect the waveform on a different way. And we can use just all of this just to provide an instruction for an LFO, for example, just to use the waveform, or just to get, a different sound. All right, so I'm going to bring a curve, and the curve is very simple. It's just a little bit different from the other ones. But with the curve, what you can do, and if you go right here and just go and it says remaps define input and output levels. So this is going to mess with that. Now the cool thing is that in this case we are getting a sine wave, and it's just going to affect how the input and output. It's going to affect how it looks in this case, and of course it will affect how it sounds. But you can do really cool things. For example, if I go all the way there and all the way there, remember that we have a sine wave. So we are not doing much, right? But notice that the sine wave is just not perfect. It's just a little bit different. And this, again, affects the sound. And if I go and just make it linear, I'm going to get closer to the real deal. What we had at the beginning. But if I start shifting this, of course, it will affect the curves. And now the sine wave just looks very different. Same thing if we go the other way. Notice how different it's gonna look. Again, this will affect the waveform and affect sound. Same thing with the positive and negative. If I go and make it like that, it will just affect it completely. Right. So all of these modules, they give you something else. And my opinion, or just I wouldn't say advice, but is that you need to really try them out when you're building something. Right? Maybe you want an LFO and you want to add a little bit of something. Maybe you just can go through one of the shapers and then just, go out. Maybe you can use the display to see what is going on with the signal and what's going on with the waveform. So you can kind of predict it or see what's going on and then use it. Or maybe you're just going to through an audio out or using an oscillator and going out to do something. Maybe you just can connect the distortion and add a little bit of the soft clipping. Why not? It's just going to give you that extra something. So all of these modules are just for you to have right here and just try them out sometime. It's not that you need to use it every single time that you create something, but they give you something extra. That's why you need to just try them out whenever you can, right? Don't forget that they exist because you have them right here and you can use them. Right, so at this point, I feel like I don't need to explain anymore. So let's try to build something because right now we were just seeing what is going on right here and just checking the harmonics and, doing a lot of talking, but we were not building anything. So let's try to do something useful and use these modules. Right, so let's build something. I have no idea what we are going to get at the end, but I do have an idea of what I want. So what I want is 3 different oscillators. And I want to do a little bit of shaping through to the 3 different oscillators. Maybe to the ins, or maybe to the outs, or maybe to the wave shaping right here. So that's what I want. And then we're going to go through a mixer or filter and use a little bit of LFO. So yeah, okay, let's start building this. I have a triangle right here. I'm just going to make it saw because I just want to get something else. And at some point, I'm going to go through a mixer. So I'm going to go and just bring a mixer directly right there. I'm just going to connect it here. And just go through here. This is going to be my first. I'm going to go maybe right there and just going to bring different oscillators. So remember, I want 3. I'm going to bring a pulse. And for now, I'm going to maybe just lower the volume just a little bit and go right here at the bottom. I want the pulse. I want the triangle and maybe a sub. And we're going to do 3. We're going to do different things to this one. Now, this one is going to be my first. This one is going to be my second. And this one is going to be my third. All right. So at this point, if we just play something, we are not going to get much. We just get a loud sound. This is going to be the sub. I'm going to make it a triangle. I'm going to just do a little bit of that. Just to get something else, I'm just going to offset the left from right. Maybe not too much, just a little bit, something like that. I'm going to do the same thing to this one so we can get something a bit more stereo. And the sub, maybe I'm just going to leave it at this point. Then we're going to see how it sounds. Maybe you want to shift the left and right. Because it's a sub, maybe it should be at the center. So, okay, so if I lower the volumes just a little bit more, let's see what we get. All right. All right, so that's fine. That's fine. Maybe it's just a little bit too loud. Let's go right there. Fine, that's fine. I'm going to go right here and just bring a filter. I want to do a little bit of filtering. I'm going to go maybe to the one I like, which is this one. I'm going to go put it right there. And again, do a little bit of filtering. Maybe I'm going to disable this. All right. So we are cutting a lot, but we are going to be adding a little bit of modulation right there. And I'm going to keep it as an AR, just an AR. And the gate is going to be connected with pre-chord. So every time that we play something, we can hear it opening and closing. All right, so let's do something. What I want as well, I want maybe to create a pattern or something like that. So we can go to the data and maybe I can bring up pitches right here. And I'm gonna maybe just make some space, some room right here. Maybe not that much. There we go. And I'm gonna make this one bigger because if not, it's just gonna be too small. I'm gonna go do something like this and maybe go right here. Okay. So maybe right here. And I want to mess with the face of this one. Maybe I want to make it, a little bit faster, or slower. I'm gonna go to face. Gonna bring the input and output first. Gonna go there. I'm gonna go to face and just bring it right here. And at some point, I'm gonna be resetting this. So I'm gonna connect it right here. Let me just do the connection, and then I'm going to go right here and just disable this one. And at some point, I need to go to the oscillator, and maybe I'm going to do it to this one. Why not? I need to disconnect this one right here and go all the way down there. And we're going to keep this just the way it is. So if I do something... Right. So what's going on is that this one is doing the arpeggio and the other ones are just going to stay in the same place. Right. So maybe I'm going to go and do 2-1 on this one. So we can have higher frequencies. Right here, we get the mids, let's say. And the other one is going to be the sub. Right, so that's fine, you know. Let me just do something right here because what we get by default, I just kind of don't like it. All right, so this is what we got. Right, I'm maybe gonna go right there. It's too slow. And I'm gonna make it like that. It's pretty much the same thing. All right, so we're cool. Let's just keep going. Maybe I want to bring some gates right here. I'm going to go to data and bring the gates. And with the gates, what I want, and I'm going to move all the way down here because we have space, we have room. And with the gates, what I want to do the same thing. I'm going to connect it right here. And at some point, I want to do some modulation. And I want to do some modulation on the shapers, of course. I'm going to just do it a pulse. So since we are going to be going out, I'm going to move them right here. I'm going to go to input and output. And I'm going to use this as a modulation source. And I'm going to connect it right here. And maybe I want an LFO that we can use later. I'm just going to bring it right there. Okay, so at this point, we are not just we are not doing much, right? Now, this is too loud. This is like the main tone. This one is going to sit behind. And these ones are the lows. Should be low. And I'm just gonna offset them. So let's see what's gonna happen. All right. Okay, so I believe that now it's kind of a time to do something with the shapers. So okay, so the shaper, we can put them whatever we want, really. So maybe I want to bring the Chebyshev right here. I'm just going to put it right here and use it as a phase modulation source. I'm going to be doing a little bit of phase modulation, and I can use whatever I want just to feed to the Chebyshev. I can even use this, or maybe use whatever of the other oscillators. So maybe I'm going to use the triangle just to drive it, and then we are going to be getting that phase modulation. So we are doing phase modulation to the pulse. We are doing it with the triangle. But the triangle is going to go through the Chebyshev. If I just say I was going to say save. If I solo this, now we're going to get something grady, right? And that's what I want. Now maybe I'm going to leave it right there. I just kind of like it. But at the same time, what I would like to do is just a little bit of modulation. So maybe this one is just going to provide me what I want. I'm going to go right here. And at some point, we're going to get kind of an accent, let's say. Right. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, I'm going to go maybe, I don't know, right here to the Wavefolder. And I'm just going to connect the sub. And I'm going to do a little bit of Wavefoldering to the sub. And if I solo this, I'm going to go right there. Right? And if I go up, we're just going to get a little bit more. So maybe I'm going to make it like that. Okay, and we can do the same trick. Maybe do a little bit of modulation. Alright, so let's see how it sounds. Sounds really grady. Alright. Okay, so that's fine. That's fine by me. Now, on this one, maybe I'm gonna go and just make it like that. And I'm gonna use this LFO. Maybe go right here. I'm just gonna go a little bit faster. And maybe we can do a little bit, maybe going up and down like this. We're gonna get that sound. Alright, so let's see how it sounds. The main problem is that, of course, we are getting a lot. We're just getting a lot of everything. And it's not a problem. It's just the way it is. We are getting a lot. So I'm going to go down on this one. Maybe going to leave this one right here. And what we could do, we could just do a little bit of modulation to this one. Maybe get a little bit of resonance. Right. So maybe this control deserves a little bit of modulation. Now this one is just way too simple. So maybe I'm going to bring a distortion just connected right there. And we're going to go through our distortion. Now what I don't want to do, I don't want to go out from the Chebyshev. I want to go out from this one to the Chebyshev. And now we are just going to get a little bit more. Just want a little bit more. Now this one is maybe too much. We are turning this into something else. So just a little bit more. Now we already have a lot of harmonic content right here. Sounds very very vintagey. So okay, so let's just bring an LFO. And again, I'm just like I told before, I just have no idea what we're getting right here. Just kind of exploring with you on the screen. Maybe bring a display so we can see what we are doing to the waveform. And use an LFO. Maybe I want to do a little bit of modulation right here. Because it's just like very static, right? So, okay, so I'm going to use an LFO. I'm still going to use a sine wave because it's what we used. And maybe we can go and just bring a shaper and go to a Chebyshev again. I'm going to go right there, just change the color to the same color. And at the end of the day, we are going to be doing something to this one. So that's going to be the instruction. Now let's do something like that. Now maybe I'm going to leave it right there. And what we can do is do a little bit of modulation to this one, just like that. And we are going to get it sometimes, and we're going to get, you know, a different waveform, which is, you know, I like that. Okay, that's fine. Going to leave it there. So this is one funny thing. I'm going to remove it, and I'm going to connect the LFO. So the LFO, by default, it's unipolar. Now, when I go through the Chebyshev, it's going to be bipolar. Maybe I don't want to make it bipolar, because if I bring a modulator out and trying to modulate this one is going to go down and up really aggressively if I do a lot. So I want to make it bipolar. So what we could do is the same thing we did before and make it you know, bipolar, make it unipolar. So on the level section all the way to the right, we can grab something, make it something bipolar, and we can make it unipolar just like this. And on the I/O, we can get the modulator out, and I'm going to break it right here. I'm going to make all of this just this color, so we can know it's the same, they belong to the same thing. I'm going to connect it right here, and if I see what's going on right there, we can see nothing because it's not connected. There we go. And I'm doing the opposite. And let me just go back, go right here, and go to bi and make it uni. And now we have a unipolar instruction. All right, so what I want to do a little bit of modulation to here. So maybe I'm going to put it right there, and I'm just going to go up like this. All right, maybe about there. And now it's going to, of course, start moving when I connect this, of course. Okay, let's see how it sounds. Much better, right? Yeah. So the modulation, it's really important. We are doing a lot right here, but right here is very static. So adding this is just makes it a lot better. Now let's bring some delay and some reverb, and let's see how it sounds with a little bit of magic right here. I'm gonna go there, and again, I'm not gonna do anything specific. I'm just gonna bring the modules and maybe go down a little bit. Now we can even make it more brighter. Let's go up in resonance and see what happens. Maybe too much. like it. It's messy. Oh, made a mistake right there. Let's control the volumes a little bit better. Fine. Right, so off. It's just different. You know what? I like it much more with what we are doing right here. It sounds, of course, kind of a messier, bigger because we have a lot more things going on. I like this much more. It's much more complete. It's a little bit more. So it's a bit more saturated, which means that you are going to get a much more harmonic content. And this depends on what where are you going to be putting this on them in the mix, because this is occupying a lot of space. So a little bit of EQing, a little bit of cutting some of the frequencies that you don't want just to fit in on a mix is going to be a good idea. But again, this is just a patch, right? Just a patch. At the end of the day, you need to fix it to fit it to a mix. So you're going to need to do a lot more. So let me just do one more thing, because right now we are just modulating a lot of things. Maybe I would like to modulate the mixer a little bit more, because right now what it's just annoying me a little bit is this one. So maybe we can go up, just like this, and get it moving. And we can even go right here. And this one is not bipolar. So we can maybe go through do the same trick that we did before. I'm going to use uni right here. I'm going to go out right there and just bring an IO, an output, input and output. I'm just going to bring a modulator out. And now this is going to be bipolar. So maybe we can modulate the panning. And now we get a little bit more of this. And this one is going to sit in the background. It's not so present. I like this a little bit more. Fine. Now I like it. Okay, so hopefully you liked all of this and you'll find it useful. Remember to like and subscribe. And of course, remember to check Patreon if you like what I do. And you want to buy me a coffee, you can go to Patreon and maybe try 1 month. You're going to get some goodies in return as well. And you get to get me a coffee and support the channel. So if you have the money and you can afford it, I would really appreciate that. If not, that's fine. That's cool. That's not why I do all of this. And but remember to leave a comment, to like and subscribe. And on the next one, if you're asking, we are going to talk about Phaser, which is this one. Some of the modules that we get right here, most of the modules we get right here are very simple to understand because they're very visual, just like the shapers. And the data lookup, which are going to be the pulse, saw, sine, triangle, and window that we get on the data. And they're kind of related. Okay, so see you on the next one.